So thank you for joining us. My name is Michelle Kusa on behalf of the OMLA board. Again, we just welcome you to our virtual professional development session tonight with Missy McClain. We are so happy that you are spending your evening with us tonight. And thank you for all of the returning attendees that we have from our past virtual PD series. We've been super happy to kick these off this year. And if you have any suggestions for us as we continue to plan the rest of this year with virtual events, please feel free to type those in the comments so that we can get speakers that you are interested in, topics that you're interested in. So again, feel free if you have any thoughts, ideas, or speakers, anything that we can help out with. We are still continuing to book our spring speakers. So go ahead and type those in the comments and we would love to get some ideas from you. But again, thank you for joining us. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy 2021. I know a lot of us, we're happy to say goodbye to 2020, but there was a lot of great things from 2020 as well. So I know we're looking forward to a great new year. I know we are, only 2 weeks into this new year, and I don't know about you, but it's already brought about quite a crazy array of emotions already this year, from things obviously down in our capital to all of you who are Browns fans. I mean, the emotions have just been running wild. We got our students back in school. My kids went back to school. It's like all of these crazy emotions going on. So again, here's to a great 2021 and all kinds of opportunities for us to learn and grow and really support and be there for one another. Just a couple announcements. Speaking of 2021, we are still holding our quote 2020 conference. We have once again postponed it. We really are committed to having an in-person conference. We do think it's important to be together and meet together and refresh and learn ideas, but we also want to make sure that we can do that in the safest way possible. So we originally postponed our October conference to March, and over Christmas break, our executive board met and made the decision to postpone that once again until May. And we are confident by May that things will change and that we will be able to have a very safe and fun and meaningful conference. So the conference dates have changed. I know the slides were rolling earlier. We'll be sending some mailings out with our new dates. It will still be held at Kalahari, May 6th and 7th. Kalahari is really taking great strides to keep everything safe. If you've been to any of our conferences, their conference center is it's just ginormous. And so things are very spaced out. They are committed to spacing their rooms and really providing a great conference experience for us. One change along with that, which kind of ties into tonight, is we originally had Weston Keshnick and Kevin Honeycutt as our keynotes. Because of some of the changes of dates, we were unable to have Kevin, but the great news is we get Weston for 2 days, which I think is amazing, because Weston, if you joined us for his webinar in the fall, has written so many amazing books and is just really dedicated to students and making connections and, really even all this digital learning. If you follow him on Twitter, I think it's Teaching Keating. So we will have Weston both days. That way, if you do only want to come up for 1 day, you'll still be able to see Weston either one of the days. And we'll also have Jack Burkmeyer there and so many other great presenters. So if you are still interested in presenting, now that we have moved that date to May, we're still keeping that presentation application open. We would love to hear your ideas and have you share with us. And again, we would love to see you May 6th and 7th at Kalahari I think it'll be a really nice end to this school year and fill you with a ton of ideas to think about as we take a break for summer and then head into the next year. So something to think about. Before I turn it over to Rob, just a shout out to Missy and a huge thank you. Missy kind of kicked off our professional development series for us this year. Again, usually we meet as a board over the summer and plan all of these great in-person events for the year, and that just had to be different this year. And Missy's name really popped up as one that we thought would be a great kickoff to our year when she talked about student trauma and what we could be facing as we headed into this school year. And as we know now, halfway through the school year, things just continue to change, right? It's definitely teaching us to grow and be flexible. But this is a great touch point for us now, halfway through the year, to bring Missy back. And she's going to talk about trauma from a different perspective and start to look at how it's impacting us. Because without a doubt, as educators and moms and dads and husbands and wives, we are constantly giving and exhausted. And I know that if you don't take care of yourself, we're no good for the people around us, right? And I know that we all want to be good for the people around us. So we are super excited to have Missy back with us just to talk about secondary stress and how to deal with that and how we can really take care of ourselves this year to be great for our students and our kids and our husbands and wives and everybody around us. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Rob. Rob's going to moderate the session and introduce Missy. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you in May.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to echo Michelle's Happy New Year to all of you. I know that this is both a time of hopefulness, but also a lot of stress still as we deal with this very unique school year. We have had the pleasure of having Missy with us, as Michelle said, in September, where she really talked about an intro to trauma in school. Tonight, Missy is going to be talking more about recognizing our own compassion fatigue, burnout, and ways to help relax and to keep a balance. And that is important all the time, but especially now as we are still facing uncertainty and we are trying to find clarity so we can get back to normal as soon as possible. A couple notes about the session. It is being recorded, so just want to mention that. If you type questions in the chat, Missy will try to answer those as she sees them. If she does not see them, we will get back to you at a later time with that. I also saw in the chat some people were asking about, will we send a recording? Yes, we will. So when you get your certificate, you also get the recording. So if you have colleagues that you would like to share this, you are free to do so. So with that, I'll turn things over to our main speaker, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for our virtual PD. Missy?
Oh, thank you, Rob. Hi, good evening. I'm so happy that you guys are all with us today. I know that it's hard to kind of step away at the evening time, right, around dinner, and your kids or your partners might be making a lot of ruckus behind doors. I know some of us might be hiding in closets, and that's okay. So I appreciate you guys signing on to really prioritize your own health and your own needs, because that's really what we're talking about today. So, of course, my name's Missy. I'm from Akron Children's. I've been there a long time. If you want to get a hold of me, this is my email address. That's going to be the best way to get a hold of me. I do want to call attention to my Pinterest account. It's at Follow Missy. I have over 4,000 social and emotional strategies for school. So whether that be things that you can use with students, things that you can give to families, or even tons of things that you can do for yourself on there as well. And same goes for that access to my live binder. You do not need to sign on for this session. This session is meant to just be a sit back and relax kind of session. You don't need to sign on to anything, but I do want you to have that information because it is a working resource. So I will never change the link. I will never change the access key, but I consistently add more to this resource. So it's available for you at any time for free. And you can use anything that's on there, PowerPoint slides, anything you want to use is that's why I've put it on there. Some of the copyrights exist, none of them are mine, so I don't really care about them. So just be careful about mass producing. Let me be the only one to go to jail for copyright. Okay, so that's just there for you as a resource, but really we're here to talk about you today. And for those of you who were able to attend my session in September, you may have had an opportunity to hear me speak about this idea of new normal. And I just want to talk about it at the beginning of this session too, because, when we were talking about it in the last session, we were really aiming it from a student point of view, right? And I showed you this wonderful picture. And if you had an opportunity to see this picture, you would know that this is a school picture. If you haven't seen this picture, what you don't know is that there is a very special lady in this picture, and that is that young woman right there. And that is my grandmother. And she turned 90 years old in May. She'll be 91 this coming May. And this is her entire school in Huntington, West Virginia. And the best I can guess, based on all of the kids I know in this picture, it's like 1937-ish, right? So the twins in the front, my aunts and my uncle in the back. So, I've had this picture in a frame in my office right here for years. And I've always looked at this as a way of looking at schools of the past and how did they differentiate based on literacy levels and on age levels. And then I would look at it as the individual unique traumas that these family members had experienced. And I knew my family members had experienced a lot. And I thought they're probably not the only kids, but before March of this past year, it had never occurred to me that what these kids were experiencing was also a collective trauma, right? That they were experiencing something as a whole, and that is that they are in the heart of Appalachia, right at the tail end of the Great Depression. And so they are experiencing something very different than just personal trauma. They're experiencing community trauma. And that really brought my attention really forefront into this young woman here. And that's Miss Zita Davis. And Miss Zita Davis was my grandmother's teacher. My grandma has so many wonderful stories about her and all the things that she was able to do to help my grandma, to help my aunts and uncles. And, it had never occurred to me that she was also experiencing at this moment a trauma, because she was a part of that collective trauma. And that there were probably many days that she was fearful and days where she was, thinking about what her children were having to go without. And there were probably many times of uncertainty for her, but every day she was waking up and she was coming to work. And she wasn't just helping these children survive, she was helping them thrive. So much so that my grandmother, she was promoted twice and graduated high school at 16. She went on to go to business school, and then she went on to teach at a business school. So Miss Zita Davis changed the trajectory of my grandma's life, the trajectory of my father's life and of mine, all because during this time of fear and uncertainty, she had the guts to wake up and come to school every day. And I've always admired this woman, but all of a sudden I have a different type of reverence for the work that she was doing. And I recognize that she had to be taking care of herself to do this work. And I know that people who come into education, we are natural self-sacrificers. That is like our gig. We're really good at putting ourselves at the bottom of that priority list. And we even take pride in it, right? I see it all the time, like on Facebook, people will be like, oh, I spent the whole weekend grading papers. Like, I mean, we're bragging, because self-sacrifice is like a badge of honor in this job, right? And so we talk about that self-sacrifice a lot, and we really don't do for ourselves. And, experiencing high stress and experiencing what we would refer to as burnout, this is actually a really normal occupational hazard for this work. It is normal. And I think sometimes when we experience this, that we get that like nasty voice inside of our heads that start going, right? And we start thinking things like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this work anymore. Maybe I should quit, or maybe I made the wrong move in my position, or, oh gosh, maybe I hate children after all, right? You get that nasty voice that starts saying all these nasty things to you, and you start believing them to be true. But what that voice is a symptom of this very normal thing that happens to people in this field. And we, even better, will experience that, we'll think it's true, and then we will hide it, right? We'll say to ourselves, well, don't tell anybody because you'll get fired. Or man, if you can't keep it together, how's anyone else going to keep it together? You've got to keep it together, right? And so we don't tell anybody that we're experiencing this. And so then this can be incredibly isolating because we don't recognize it as a normal occupational hazard. But we have to start regularly talking about this as a normal thing that happens to really, really great teachers, to really, really great administrators. This is something that happens. It's very normal. And, you know, you think about that kind of old analogy of like the firefighter, right? The firefighter puts on that, you know, jacket, and the firefighter puts on the gloves and puts on the mask and gets ready before they run into the fire. And it's interesting because we in education, we talk a lot about how I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. I'm doing this. Right. Well, that would be like a firefighter saying, well, I don't have time to put any of that gear on because there's a fire. I mean, like a literal fire. But they have to take the time to protect themselves for the next fire, right? They have to take that time. They have to stop and put those gloves on. I know some of y'all, you're walking into school every day just butt naked. You have not put on anything. You're just ready for it, right? But we have to take that time to put the jacket on, to put the mask on, to put the gloves on, and prepare for this job, because this job has a natural occupational hazard of extreme burnout. You would never blame a firefighter for getting burned. I imagine that's just a part of the gig sometimes, right? I would never blame someone in education for getting burned out. It's just a part of the gig sometimes. So how do we recognize when it's happening? How do we prevent it from happening? And then if it is happening, how do we kind of like quick crisis, right? How do I was going to say crisis resolve. That's not a word or a phrase or anything, right? But how do we in the moment take care of this feeling? That's really kind of the goal, recognizing when it's happening, you know, overall preventing it, and then having kind of an emergency go-to plan. And so we're going to start really by talking about recognizing. So some of the main symptoms you might start to feel, the first one is exhaustion, right? Sometimes I think other people's tired is really cute, right? My husband will come home and I'll be like, oh, you must be exhausted. You got to stand up when you wanted and go to the bathroom when you wanted and refill your coffee when you wanted. You must be so tired, right? I think that we deeply underestimate the amount of physical, emotional, intellectual work it takes to do your job. Right? I think it was interesting. I know that Michelle had mentioned before you guys came on about regaining the stamina of it, right? That this like triple summer we all just got, right? Now, of course, we were working hard, but we were working differently. And a lot of us were sitting a lot more than we normally do. And now all of a sudden, if we were going back to school, some of you, you're having to stand a lot more and all that. You're like, oh man, I haven't done this in a while, right? We have to build up that stamina again. I used to say, I know I've been on diets before and people would say, well, what's your lifestyle like? And I would always say sedentary, like as sedentary as you can get, because I would always think about after work. I was never accounting for all of the activity I was doing during my day for work. I think we totally underestimate how much work and effort you are giving physically, emotionally, and physically. So you're exhausted, right? And, you know, every once in a while, if you're feeling like so exhausted that you can like barely get home just to get your shoes off and fall asleep fully dressed, kind of exhausted, right? Every once in a while, it's been a hard week. It was our first week back, or we just did testing. I mean, that's normal. But if you're starting to feel that on a trend, something's going on. Your body's trying to tell you something. Another pretty good warning sign, I call it Eeyore syndrome. You guys know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, right? Does anybody know a real life Eeyore, someone in your life that's like really like them? I find in schools, they kind of like meander around the office or the teacher's lounge, right? You come in with some really new, exciting idea and they're like, well, I guess you can try it. I mean, I tried it last year and it didn't work, but good luck, right? Or at the meeting, they're like, don't get used to the standards. They'll change next year, right? Now, if you start recognizing that voice as your own, something's going on. Of course, we're all known to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer every once in a while, a little bit of a negative Nancy every once in a while. But if you find yourself on trend, you're the naysayer in the room. What's going on? Something's going on. Your body's trying to tell you something. Another symptom that's actually really interesting, and I didn't really even think of this as work related when it first happened to me. So what this is it's an apathy or insensitivity to things happening outside of your own personal bubble. And I remember, like I said, the first time for me, it was right during the Boston Marathon bombing. And I remember the very first footage of it that I saw, I was kind of like, well, I mean, them and everybody else. And that was a real kick in the pants for me, because like I wouldn't normally be so casual about something so serious, but it was like in that moment, I just didn't have it in me to care about something that wasn't directly impacting me. And I've even had it sometimes get so bad to where even things that are directly impacting me, it's like I can't care about it. Right. And it's like, yeah, that might usually make me mad or sad or really excited, but honestly, I just kind of don't feel anything about it. Now, we have all been known every once in a while, a kid's talking to us about something really serious and we're running through a grocery list. That's totally normal every once in a while. But if you're starting to feel like other people's needs or other kind of current issues that are happening aren't affecting you in the ways that they used to as a natural empathy person, something's going on. This is a sign that your body's experiencing something. You know, if you are avoiding people in your life that you do not like, keep doing that. It is 100% normal. Keep avoiding people you don't like. But if you find yourself avoiding people you genuinely like, something's going on, right? And of course, we've all wanted to kind of hide under the covers and go off the grid for a weekend. That's fine. But if you're consistently, side clicking the phone when you don't want to talk to someone who normally you really like to talk to on the phone, or you're telling your friends you're busy when you're not all the time, something's going on, right? Another really good one. Now, I don't want anyone to be offended. Okay, so please don't be offended. But apparently, there's a portion of our population that when they get really stressed out, they want to work out a lot. And I just really wish I was on that side. I tend to be on the other side where I'll try to collect as many non-perishable items as I can to make a semicircle around my body so I don't have to move for 24 to 48 hours. But it's so weird about this because exercise activity, this is a really healthy, really good for you type of coping mechanism, right? It's something that you should absolutely do when you're stressed. It's such a good coping mechanism for you until it's not good for you. Right? Until you're moving into DJ Tanner on an electric bike kind of situation. Those of you know what I'm talking about. It's a Full House reference, right? It gets to a point where this really healthy exercise, this really healthy activity used to alleviate that stress, right? Maybe that run in the morning set you for the day and you felt really good, or that walk after dinner, you were able to get a really good night's sleep, right? It felt good. But now all of a sudden it's not working anymore. And so you start, well, maybe if I add a little bit more time, a little bit more distance, then it'll work. And it's still not working. And so now it's starting to interfere with other parts of your life and other things that you like to do. All of a sudden, this really great, wonderful, healthy coping mechanism has turned into something different, right? So of course, every once in a while, you've had a hard day, you've had a hard week, you want to go like hit it out hard at the gym. I don't even know the language, whatever. Or you want to go into full sloth mode for a couple of days. Every once in a while, that's totally normal. But if you're seeing it happen on trend, something's going on. Now, I tend to do most of my exercising while chewing and swallowing. So I think one of the other big coping mechanisms that gets affected by this stress is our eating, right? And so some of us, sometimes we get so stressed that we can't eat. And I think the worst part about that, I've experienced it. excuse me, the worst part about that is that you like lose the joy of eating, right? There's like a thing maybe that used to, when you'd eat it, it would make you feel something or think of something, and that would make you happy. And now all of a sudden this food just becomes sustenance. Like I just have to eat something because I know I have to, right? I think that's when it gets really bad on that end. I tend to spend most of my time over on the other end of the spectrum, where I'll like go through the drive-through of McDonald's, and then I'm going to go through the drive-through of Wendy's to get a Frosty. But I'm going to hide my McDonald's bags under my coat, like in shame, because I don't want the Wendy's people to know that this is my second drive-through, right? It's very embarrassing for me, the shame of other strangers. But you know, that's just me. Every once in a while, you kind of get to that spot where you're skipping lunch, or maybe not getting what you used to, or every once in a while you're kind of binging out like me. Okay, totally normal. But if you're seeing it on trend, something's going on. So now you guys know that my go-to coping mechanism is Frosties, but we all have different vices that we go to. So, you know, I mean, you guys are all grown-ups. I'm not going to tell you not to drink. That's not what I am here for. You can drink all you want. But what I'm talking about more is like the stress, right? So that feeling of like, I've had such a stressful day, I need a drink. Honestly, whether you have the drink or not, it's the stress that I'm thinking about. And so again, every once in a while, we've had a hard day, we've had a hard week, we really worked hard, we want to go out for happy hour, we want to have a drink. That's all totally normal. And you know, if you guys are getting Blue Apron meals and like matching wines with the food, that's not what I'm talking about. Come move in with me and make me food every night. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this like trend, right? If it's a trend that you're feeling so stressed out, you could use a drink, even if you don't even actually have the drink. It's the stress. If you're finding that out on a trend, something's going on. Something's happening. Your body's trying to help you. I'm sorry, your body's trying to tell you something. The last warning sign I want to talk about is that when you feel this extreme burnout, right? When you feel this, you are really, really apt to overreact. And I find that I typically overreact on people who don't deserve it, right? I overreact on my partner at home. I overreact on my children. I overreact on coworkers. I overreact, to strangers at the grocery store, right? We overreact. Our nerves are like frayed, right? And every little thing is kind of putting us over the edge. Now, again, every once in a while, we've been known to have a short fuse. Something specific is happening right around this time, and it makes sense. But if you're starting to see this on trend, something's going on. All right. So does everyone feel like sufficiently bummed out? Did I like get everybody into like Bumsville, right? So, I mean, what do we do about this, right? We know we're experiencing this. So now what? What do we do? Well, I think that the first thing we really need to talk about is how really what we're doing right now in schools. And I know that some of you may have seen me talk about this already the first time around, but this idea that what we're doing in schools, I'm really excited about, that we are really focusing on the physical safety of our staff members in our buildings, right? We're talking social distance and masks and sanitation and what do we need to do and where and what products, and right? We're having so many conversations and discussions about this safety, but it's not enough. I really do wish that it was, but it's not. First and foremost, if we are only seeing this pandemic as having physical ramifications for staff, we're really missing the whole social and emotional side of this. You guys came into this work because you enjoy being in the company of people and getting close with kids. So it's really hard to do those things behind a mask and 6 feet apart. And so it's not just about keeping you physically safe, but this is going to be a really difficult time for us socially and emotionally, because we may not be getting the same reward that we typically get from working with and regularly seeing the faces of children. And if we're not getting that reward, it can really hurt us emotionally and even in our social experience. And, I think about how much we've been doing these conversations and discussions on physical safety. I think it's great. Could you imagine if the same amount of effort, planning, discussions, and debate was had in regard to the social and emotional safety and health of our staff members? I find that conversation about social and emotional health and safety always tends to kind of be like a tail end conversation, right? The last 5 minutes, right? We're going to say, oh yeah, and by the way, take care of yourself. And then that's kind of it, right? But thinking about it as a systemic thing that we could do, right? It doesn't just have to be my job to take care of myself, because there's a lot of things that we could do systemically that could actually help us in the same way that this physical stuff is, right? It's if it was up to everyone to wear a mask, right? And there wasn't a systemic decision on that, it would not be going as safely and smoothly as it is now. So how can we start thinking about social and emotional safety from a systemic point of view too, and really getting down to the bare bones of what people need, right? And so not just, I need, okay, we'll have, someone come and do a meditation during the staff meeting monthly. Like, yeah, that's great. But, what do I need to do? And how can I help my coworkers, or maybe some of those staff members that I work with? How can I help them achieve self-care every day? Maybe it's that we're doing deep breathing during announcements. Maybe it's ensuring that every staff member is getting a potty break, right? If I'm not getting a chance to pee, there's nothing going to go smoothly, because all I'm thinking about is peeing, right? So how are we looking at this, not so much as kind of this special occasion thing that happens that we take care of ourselves, but just an everyday, regular, all the time thing that we have to do? And, I put this little pyramid up for everything. You guys have seen me do this, right? On that tier 1 level, healthy and happy staff is number 1 on the list. And so if we aren't meeting that, then we can't expect our staff to be performing at a tier 1 level or be performing at a tier 2 and tier 3 level as well. It's very difficult. And so, we can start thinking about self-care in this way, right? What can we do? Or what is, at a tier 1 level, what is something that all staff members deserve, right? What should they all be entitled to? Things like a potty break, time for lunch, planning time, things like respect and a voice and vote at meetings, things like, no retaliation if I voice a different opinion, right? These are all things that can help us feel safer in our space, all tier 1. And then at a tier 2 level, we can work together and say, okay, what are the at-risk times for teacher burnout? I think it's funny that every year come March, we're all surprised that everyone's stressed out, right? And then we tell someone, we tell Susie, volunteers a lot, that she's got to plan a self-care meeting for everyone who's stressed out. And poor Susie, who's stressed out, now got to plan a party for everyone else who's stressed out, right? And we could say that up front, like, hey, it's, the end of September. Let's plan that March meeting, schedule everything, get all the non-perishables, get all the plates, put it all in a closet. So come March, Susie volunteers a lot, doesn't have to do anything but hit the go button, right? That would be a tier 2 help for each other and for yourself. And then at a tier 3 level, knowing what to do when you are in crisis. And we're going to talk about that at the very end. But thinking of it kind of in the same way we do everything else with PBIS. I'm going to wrangle PBIS into absolutely everything I talk about. But it's a really fun way. I mean, fun is relative, but fun way to talk about this really systemic thing that we could be doing for each other. Self-care is so weird. I hate the word self-care. I think that it's a weird word. It's like borderline inappropriate. I don't like it. And I also think that there's like a lot of misunderstanding of what self-care is. I think a lot of people think when they hear self-care, they think it means like I got to eat a lot more kale and like, run a mile or something. And I mean, if that's your thing, yes, that is self-care. But all self-care really is just you doing whatever it is that makes you feel good about being you. That's it. You doing whatever it is that makes you feel good about being you, whether that's, going for a walk with your dog or watching movies or playing board games or, looking at nail polish at Target, going golfing. I mean, I don't know what you like to do, right? It's something that makes you feel good about being you. Now, I know that for some of us, there's a part of this journey that has to start with rediscovering what it is that we like to do that makes us feel good about being us, right? Because some of us have been doing for others for so long that we forget. We forget what we even like to do. Or maybe you're looking back on times before, things you used to like to do, and that feels really far away now, right? I know when I was in high school, when I was in college, I liked to rock climb. You guys, that's really far away for me right now. Like I couldn't be further from being able to carry myself up a wall. But that doesn't mean that there's not 100 other things I like to do that make me feel good about being me, right? It's just a matter of rediscovering who it is that or who it is that you like to spend time with and what it is that you like to do to make you feel good. That's it. And we put a whole lot of pressure on this idea of self-care. Like it's got to be something that we're not already doing. But sometimes it's something that we're just not taking enough time for. Maybe we're doing it and we're enjoying it, but we're not getting the amount of time we need for this. And, there's plenty of basics that everyone should be doing, right? Obviously, we should be eating every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sometimes a couple of snacks too, right? We are weird. We are human beings who need to eat. It's something that happens. I hear a lot of teachers will say like things to me like, what lunch? Right? And to me, that's like saying, oh, I care so much about these children, I've stopped eating. Right? No, we gotta eat. And I mean, I'm not your doctor. I don't care what you eat. I don't care if it's a Snickers bar or 10 almonds, right? Just gotta eat something. Because I don't know any of you very well, but I do know this about you. You are not nice when you are hungry. You have to eat. So maybe it's keeping a bag of almonds in your desk so that you can grab 10 of them at noon and move on through your day. That's fine, but you got to eat something. They have to drink. And when I say drink, I mean water, right? We got water. We are, for being a country that has such availability of potable water, we are as a population just perpetually dehydrated. We're so thirsty all the time. We got to drink water. And kind of traditional old school recommendations are 60 ounces of water. So this is, or I'm sorry, 64 ounces. Did I just say 60? 64 ounces. So this is 30 ounces. So that's 2 of these and 1 big gulp in the morning. But new recommendations say half your body weight in ounces. You guys, I feel like I would drown. So whatever is, I find this to be a good goal, right? If you can think of like a number that is going to be attainable for you, but kind of tough, right? So if that's 64 ounces, great. If it's 24 ounces, great. If it's 12 ounces, great. Whatever is a number that's attainable for you, but still going to be kind of tough. And then you work from there. Don't get kind of caught up in this idea, I'm going to have to do half my body weight and what, like, don't worry about that. Just drink a little bit more than you're used to, right? That could be one goal. We have a hard time distinguishing in our bellies the difference between hungry and thirsty. Our bellies pretty much do the same thing for both. So next time you're hungry, you're actually probably thirsty. Drink some water. Okay. All right. Then you have to sleep 6 to 8 hours every single night, 6 to 8 hours. And I'm really only saying 6 to be nice because I mean 7 to 8 and really I mean 8. But 6 to 8 hours. Now, if you don't already have something diagnosed, hormonal things happening, ladies, or small children that are waking you up frequently. If you find on trend that you're not getting that 6 to 8 hours of sleep, something's going on. And I really want you to talk to your doctor, because I get weird about this, because I myself have a sleep disorder, and there has been nothing that has changed my life for the better than getting it appropriately treated. Okay, 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And then as human beings, you have to wake up and do it all over again every day until you die, right? It's just what we got to do. Other, of course, totally basic things is work-life balance. So millennials didn't make up work-life balance. Right. I think it's funny. Sometimes I hear like on the news, it's kind of sounding like, oh, these millennials, they want to work and have families. And I think that that's really funny. We didn't make it up though. Millennials, I say we, I'm an old millennial. So young. No, millennials didn't make it up, right? I know my grandpa, he worked for Goodyear, and he would go to work for 40 hours a week, and then he would come home and be with his family. He didn't check his email on his smartphone, right? We are blurring these lines so much. And I think that it's especially true this year when we have to do so much virtual learning and so many things online, and our homes are becoming our work. And this line is getting so blurry. And we need to make a point and set boundaries to make sure that we are maintaining that work-life balance. It's never going to be 50-50, right? But we want to be conscious of the amount of time we're giving to work and the amount of time we're giving to the other things that are important to us, whether it be our partners, our pets, our children, other family members, or friends, right? We want to make sure we're spending the appropriate amount of time and energy and the other things that are important to us. I think along with this idea of taking a break, right? We legit have to do this. We don't do this. We're afraid to do this in a lot of ways. And, one of the, my favorite stories about this, I had an administrator who, a principal, she wanted to have like an open door policy, right? And the spirit of that is really important. And I encourage that open door policy, but that meant that she was never taking a lunch break. She was never shutting the door. And so people were coming in all the time. And when I asked her if we could separate some, maybe even a 15-minute segment where she could just take time to just shut the door, and she had a lot of anxiety around that. And I understand that. But what we did was we actually came up with some kind of, or it was like a list of like bullets, only if, right? Knock only if these 4 things are happening, right? Or if this is happening, you can knock, but not if it's not that, right? And it actually worked out really great for her to where she was able to take that 15 minutes, shut the door. And if there was an emergency, if there was something that met her bullet list, they were able to come in. But if it didn't meet that need, she was taking that break. And one of the bigger things that I think helped her kind of buy into this was I said, as an administrator, if you're not taking a lunch break, if you are not modeling this self-care, then what are your staff going to do? Because if you have a policy in which you are working all day and you are always available, then that is not at a tier 1 level modeling an appropriately healthy work environment. And so I think by having her kind of switch her mind into thinking, okay, I need to model appropriate self-care, so that not just because I'm telling them to take a break or telling them to take care of themselves, but they can see that they have permission to do so because I'm doing it as well. And so scheduling that break at any time during your day is really vital, whether you are an administrator or a teacher, making sure that you are giving yourself some time that you are really setting aside. And yes, you will have to make boundaries. And yes, you can have exceptions to that break time, but scheduling that time is going to be really important for you. So I love this one. It's funny because we lie like a ton. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm the only liar in the group. But my friends, oh, we're gonna go do this. I was like, oh no, I can't. I've got a busy schedule of my new Netflix series I'm binging, right? And I think it's easier too. The more isolated we get, it's just so much easier. Like, oh my God, that would mean I'd have to get in the shower. I'd have to put pants with buttons on. I don't know, right? Is it really worth it? And so we're lying. And I think first and foremost, if you want to take some time, you have every right to say no, right? Hey, that sounds fun. I think I'm just going to chill at home. I'll catch you guys next time. You do not have to pretend to be busy to say that you would like to take time for yourself, right? That's okay to say, I'm going to take time for myself. But B, sometimes you are actually going to have to drag yourself out by the toenails. Sometimes you are going to have to convince yourself that, you know what, I feel terrible now. I don't want to go out. I don't want to do all this. But you know what? I know that if I do, that if I get on that game night Zoom, I know that if I, meet up with someone at the park and we're going to go for a hike, I know that I'm going to feel a ton better when I get home. And sometimes you have to drag yourself out by the toenails on that promise alone. And that's okay. Right. So it's okay to take time for yourself. You don't have to lie. And B, sometimes you are going to have to drag yourself out by the toenails, knowing that it's going to make you feel so much better when you've done it. We are so good at telling kids to put their phones down. And meanwhile, we're on like level 3000 of Candy Crush. We sometimes have to take our own advice. I've caught myself just recently, right? Like, oh, go put your phone down, go outside, right? We do this. So sometimes we have to say, okay, I got to put my phone down. I got to put my tablet down, shut the laptop, turn the TV off, and reconnect with the pets and people that we care about, right? Now, of course, if you're doing Zoom, you're going to have to keep your phone open or whatever, but you know what I mean, right? I'm not just doing something isolated on my own. I'm connecting with someone, because it's those kinds of relationships and connections that actually fulfill us, right? It's saying, okay, I'm going to put this phone down to play Hungry Hippos for one, round. And that's okay to do, right? Giving your kids, giving your friends, giving your family members, and giving yourself some time to just kind of be away from the blue screen, right? Now, I would never tell you not to worry. I am a worry wart through and through. I find myself, my brain will just kind of rattle at night. But I have found this actually really helpful. And that's the idea that you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And so for me, when I find myself kind of rattling through worries, I'll think about this thing and I'll think, okay, is this the wind? Because if it's the wind, I can't change it. But what am I going to do to help adjust my sails? I can't change, right? I can't control if people are wearing masks. I can't control what happened at the Capitol. I can't control what our school schedule is going to look like right now. But I can adjust my sales. Oh, couldn't get that one out. I can adjust my sails, right? Okay, I can't change whether or not people are wearing masks, but I can change and think about the places where I want to go, or I can turn down invitations. I can, I can bring masks for everybody. Right? There's a lot of things I could start worrying about that's going to be better than just kind of mulling in the anger and kind of head against the brick wall of why won't they just wear masks? I can't do anything about and control anything about what happened at the Capitol, but I can control and think about my sales and how I advocate for that and what I'm going to say and what my words are going to be regarding it, right? Those are all things that I tend to try and focus my energy on, right? Because we could spend a lot of time banging our heads against the brick wall, but what we want to do is kind of focus in on the things that we do have control over. And that can be hard to know sometimes. And so sometimes it is making a list of things I can't control. I think now more than ever, it's important that we start reassessing our boundaries. I think that a lot of us may have been really feeling good and set in both our physical and social and emotional and even our educational boundaries, right? We've kind of had these things set up for a really long time, but now with the introduction of COVID and hybrid learning and virtual learning and all of this whole new thing, I think some of our boundaries are starting to change and shift and maybe even slip. And so I think it's a really important time for us to reassess what our boundaries are. So just because I'm doing full virtual learning and I have a student that messages me at 10 p.m., does that mean that I should message him back? And how is that boundary going to be communicated with everyone? But I think making sure that we're kind of going back through what our boundaries are, whether it be work-based boundaries or personal boundaries, making sure that we are knowing what those boundaries are and then kind of playing out how we're going to assert those boundaries. So if, I really want people to wear masks if they're coming into my house, even my own, dad, well, how am I going to assert that boundary in a respectful way, right? Those are conversations that we haven't had to have before this year. And so kind of taking that time to assert those boundaries is going to help with some of the stress at home and at work. Okay. So, this is my favorite picture. So, we are our own worst enemies, right? We beat ourselves up all the time. We talk about the things we should have done, the reactions we should have had, what mistake we made, what we forgot to do, right? We just like beat ourselves up all the time. And then we never talk to ourselves about the things that we're doing right. Right? We just don't. And we take for granted a lot of the things that we're doing right. You guys, it's 10 till 8 and you guys signed on to this and you stayed on this. Not everybody did that. I'm pretty impressed with you. You're pretty amazing. Some of you showered today. That's pretty impressive. I'm proud of you. It's almost 8 p.m. and I feel like I can make this assumption, but I'm thinking most of you probably have not yet today punched someone right in the face. You guys, I'm so proud of you. We don't give ourselves credit for the things that we're doing good all the time. And what I want you to do is not just think it, but I want you to actually say it out loud. And you guys, this is so embarrassing. So if you're afraid of stranger shame like I am, just roll all the windows up in your car. You're in your car all alone. And I want you to start out loud saying all the amazing things that you did today, right? Oh my gosh, I took a shower. Oh my gosh, I finally took back that thing that I was supposed to take back months ago. Right? Look at the things that I've done, right? I'm amazing. And I want you to say it out loud because I want your ear to get used to hearing it, because we don't even let other people talk good about us. Other people will start telling us what good job. And we're like, oh, no. We don't even let other people talk good about us. So I want you to do it so much so in your ear to hear it so much that you get used to it, so that when someone says to you, you are an amazing person, this was so awesome, you did such a good job, that your response is like, oh my gosh, I know, right? That's what I want you to do, because you are amazing and you're going to be able to do so many things. And we weigh ourselves down with all of that heavy thought that it is so worth it to just start talking about all the good things that you do every day. And you know what? If there is anybody that is, I don't think there's anybody in the world that's better at making a plan than a teacher, right? Making a plan with an Excel table. Like, these are things that you guys are good at doing, right? Many of you might do it in a bullet journal. You might do it in different colored ink. You guys are super good at this stuff. So make a plan. What am I going to do? Not just get that massage 3 weeks from now. What am I going to do the moment I wake up? But you gotta, okay, first off, you got to make sure that it's realistic. So would it be great if I woke up every morning and did like a whole half hour like yoga thing? Yeah, it would be great. am I going to do it? Probably not, right? And I know that you've probably sat through these self-care sessions just like me before, where you earnestly write down all the things that you're going to do to take care of yourselves. And then like a day later, you forget all of it, right? You've got to do something that's realistic, right? Can I remember when I wake up to stretch while I'm laying in bed? I can do that. Can I remember to stretch as I'm taking my socks off to get in the shower, touch my toes, right? That's probably more realistic than like a full Bikram yoga experience, right? Am I going to be able to eat more kale? Probably not. But can I remember this ding dang water bottle before I sit in front of this ding dang laptop? Probably, right? Making a realistic kick butt plan for you and thinking about kind of the whole day. Could I take a couple breaths right as I'm grabbing the front door to the school, right? That's going to help me. What can I do? It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. It's just doing something that makes you feel good in that moment. And then, like I said, we have to start thinking about if we get into a crisis mode, right? What do we do then, right? If I find that I'm at a 10 on the stress level, I'm in full blown, crisis. I did all the stuff to protect myself, but I can't protect myself 100% because it is a normal thing that you get this thing called burnout in this job. So you can only protect so much. So now I've found myself in full burnout mode. What do I need to do? Well, I encourage you to think about your 5 W's. Okay, so the first W is when. And what I mean by this is kind of when would other people recognize that you need more support? What are some things that you might do that might key into yourself that you need help? So for example, for me, my when is like, I know that when I start talking really, really fast, kind of like this, the faster I'm speaking, the more stressed I am. That's a good indicator that I'm experiencing stress. Something else that's really good for me as a good sign that something's going on. Like if I start saying things like, don't worry about it, I've got it. That's a really good indicator that I don't have it and I need help. Okay. So when are some things that like, when could I tell that something's going on with you? Right. Think of some of those things in your head. Then the next W is who. When I recognize that something's going on, who is someone that I can go to that can help calm me down in the moment? Now, you need to be careful about this because I think sometimes like my first instinct is to say my 2 best friends. But you guys, my 2 best friends are like ride or die kind of friends. So if I call them and I'm like, oh, this is what's happening, my friends, they'll be like, oh, no, they did not say that to you. They are not treating you this way. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go down there and we're going to, right? And so now I was at a 10, but now I'm at a 15 and me and my friends are going to beat someone up, right? So maybe they're not the person I want to call in this crisis moment because I need someone who's going to calm me down. So maybe that's maybe my co-teacher or maybe, someone down in the guidance office, or maybe it's, that family member that you can kind of text over and they'll help calm you down, right? Someone who's going to calm you down in the moment. The next W is what. So in that moment, what are some things that you can do? Now, I encourage you to think about this as a work-related experience, right? So yeah, it would be great if I could, go golfing, but I'm at work and I'm at school, right? So what are some things that I can do at school that would actually make me feel better, right? So maybe that's taking deep breaths. Maybe it's, turning the lights off and shutting your door. Maybe that's going out in the courtyard and having a couple deep breaths or, stretching, right? Or just listening to the birds, right? What is something that you could do at school that would make you feel better in that moment? So we talked about when we would know you need it, who you would go to talk to, and what you would do in that moment that could help you feel better. And the next W is where. Where are some places for you at school that feel safe, right? So that might be in your office with your door shut. in a classroom with the lights off and the door shut. You know, a lot of people like quiet spaces. My safety spaces are noisy spaces. So when I'm like, you'll know I'm stressed if I'm kind of doing laps around gyms or cafeterias, taking deep breaths, because I like a lot of noise. That helps me feel better. So, you know, maybe it's the teacher's lounge at lunch, just kind of listening to everyone laugh and talk, right? What are some places that you feel safe and you feel comfortable? So we talked about when, we talked about who, we talked about what and where. And then the last W is words. And these are just a few words that you can say to yourself that will help you feel better in the moment. I find it's very important to have a cheesy canned statement just ready to ignite, because that negative voice gets going in our brains over and over and over again. And it's hard to think of something good or positive to say. And so you need that kind of go-to easy, cheesy line that will help you feel better in that moment. So a lot of us already have one. Sometimes it like, you got this, or you can do anything for a week, or, you know, when he closes a door, he opens a window, or, you know, I can move mountains, or I just made that one up. I don't know, whatever it is that you've got. Now, my personal set of words is don't quit, dig in deeper. And I have actually a necklace that says that on it. So you might find me, you know, pacing in the gym, holding my necklace and taking deep breaths. You'll know I'm stressed. But it's kind of those things that you can just kind of cheesy say to yourself, don't quit, dig in deeper, that help you kind of get through in the moment. And then you can start thinking about all that processing way later. But right now, this is just that moment. So you've identified or thinking about when you might know this is happening, when you might need more support, who those people are that can help calm you down, what it is that you can do at school in the moment that can help you feel better, where you feel safe in the moment, and some words you can tell yourself that can help ease that stress. I hope overall for today that that you've really started to think about how to recognize when you're experiencing that extreme burnout, ways to kind of put on the gloves, put on the jacket, put on the mask so that you're ready for this risk. And then how to identify, oh, this is a crisis moment, and what you can do in that moment. Now, I will say one of my favorite things as a preventative, it's an extra set of gloves, is to every day think about the things that you're grateful for. You know, it's easy, especially in 2020, to kind of think of all the crappy things that happen. And trust me, a lot of crappy happened to me in 2022. But there's so much that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for a refrigerator that makes ice cubes. You guys, I'm so grateful for this new little $5 lamp that I bought that makes me not look in darkness at nighttime. I am grateful for my children being able to play on tablets, which is the best babysitter. I'm grateful for so many things. And I find the more that you think about the things in your life that you're grateful for, you start to really see joy kind of everywhere. There's so much more to be seen than the bad. I know that sometimes the bad is what takes over in our minds, but we have so many things to be grateful for. You know, I'm just so thankful that you chose to spend this time and talk about your own health. I know I'm over, so I won't go too much more over, but I just am so proud and really thankful to be able to do this kind of work. You guys, you know, teachers saved my life. I say that all the time. And teachers are some of our most important, most valuable creatures in this earth. And I just so appreciate the opportunity to get to share with you. And I hope that you take the time to actually take care of yourself. So I know that you've made these lists before in earnest. I know that you have. So I don't want you to worry about anything I just said. And I want you to pick one thing that's going to be easy for you. Is it going to be the water? Is it going to be, I don't know, maybe it's the kale for you. I don't know. You know, is it going to be taking a walk? Is it going to be going to look at nail polish? Is it just going to be sitting down and figuring out what it is that you like to do to take care of yourself? You've got to take care of yourself. I don't care how many evidence-based strategies someone shares with you. There is absolutely nothing that is going to be more positive and more effective for your students than a happy and healthy you. So thank you so much for spending time with me. Go home, take care of yourself. I'm all done, Rob.
Hey, Missy, one of the things I'm grateful for is your time and your thoughts on this and many topics and everything you're doing to help educators throughout the state of Ohio. So thank you so much for the time that you spent with us tonight. I know you said you'll stick around if anyone had any specific questions, so we will be here for a few minutes if you have anything specific. Just a reminder of we have other virtual professional development that will be coming, and more information through our Twitter and our website will be pushed out. Again, this is being recorded, and you will get a certificate and recording of this along with the things that were on the chat. So hopefully that will be good information for you to use for yourself and for your staff. Michelle, did I miss anything?
No, that was great. Thank you again, Missy, and thanks, Rob, for moderating. And again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we wish you a great winter and spring, whether you're virtual or whether you are in school, and just keep plugging away. But again, don't forget to take care of yourself. Thank you, Missy, for all the great pointers for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.